And actually, Paul, I don't know if you've ever been on an episode where I've actually had the soundboard going.
No.
Okay. So I'm gonna play a clip, and I'm gonna play our intro, and then we'll get into it. So.
It was like a fart board, or what we got going on here?
It's pretty much a fart board. I'm pretty much just whacking off on the fucking podcast is what I'm doing here.
Excellent.
Good evening, Dr. Vesalius.
I have come for my son.
He will die at midnight.
If you must take a life, take mine.
I will have killed 9 times in my life, Dr. Vesalius. How many murders can be attributed to you?
None. I did not kill your wife.
No?
I tried to save her.
With a knife in your hand, Doctor, I have no faith in your profession. I was told after my crash that I would never speak again. The doctors were, of course, wrong. For as you see and can hear, I have used my knowledge of music and acoustics to recreate my voice.
You don't have to remind me of your ingenuity, Dr. Phibes. Where is my son?
May I give you one final reminder, Dr. Vesalius? You will see your son under circumstances which may bring back memories to you.
What is it you want?
The skill of your hands, Doctor. I am giving your son the same chance that my wife had. You need not be alarmed. He has already been anesthetized.
Your wife, no, Phibes. But you I will kill.
But you can't, Doctor. I am already dead. Your son needs you.
You are listening to They Must Be Destroyed on Sight. The following podcast contains adult language, adult situations, and spoilers for the movies discussed occur often. You've been warned. Now, take it away, Dr. Rausch.
They must be destroyed on sight.
Welcome back. It's They Must Be Destroyed on Sight. Intermission, episode 31. And I'm your host, Lee. Human error won't stop him, Russell. I'm joined by my co-host, Lee. Had years to hide to plot this damnable thing. Hardy, how you doing, ma'am?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you.
All right. And returning, Paul. 9 Eternities of Doom, Ramali. How are you doing?
Good, sir. How you doing? I'm the newfangled thing that keeps out drafts.
Oh, I have a note about that. So if you have not read the title before you clicked on the link, we're doing the Abominable Dr. Phibes from 1971, the Vincent Price classic. Spoilers. It's a really good movie, I don't think anyone's going to have any hard takes on Dr. Phibes. I'm kind of thinking, but yeah, we're going to do that. And I'm kind of thinking next time we do an intermission, we'll just do the sequel too.
There's a sequel?
There is a sequel.
Yeah, I was actually surprised you didn't do. We were doing both today. Phibes rises again.
I just figured, intermission, 3 people. We'll keep it to one movie on the episode to keep it, under the hour or whatever we usually kind of do with the intermissions. But
and there is a DVD release that has both on the same DVD too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the MGM Midnight Movies one, from years ago. But yeah, we're gonna get into that. We're just gonna take a quick break. We're going to come back after a podcast promo with some music, and we're going to talk about fucking Dr. Phibes. So that's what we're going to do.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds? Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this movie.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little
popping
history
up.
all popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped from watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was.
How did you watch this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
The Abominable Dr. Phibes from 1971.
What lovely music for a murder, or two, or three, or nine. Who's this? Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to meet a dear friend. 9 killed you. 9 shall die. Your wife, no, Phibes. But you I will kill. But you can't, Doctor. I am already dead.
Here, how are we going to get him off this? You take his head, and I'll take his feet. Let's unscrew him.
Dr. Phibes, who samples the finer things of life in his own inimitable way, and experiments with fascinating instruments of death.
The what, sir? The guitar. The 10 curses visited upon the pharaohs before Exodus.
9 shall die, 9 eternities in doom.
Curse of boils, of bats.
Frogs?
Frogs, yes. And the curse of blood. Curse of hail in the bloody middle of nowhere.
Are you ready for Dr. Phibes?
Probably the most terrifying motion picture you'll ever see.
Directed by Robert Fust, I think. Fust, maybe? But he did more TV than he did films. He did a lot of episodes of The Avengers and The New Avengers, and that's, of course, the British Avengers, you know. He also did this film, and, of course, the sequel, Dr. Phibes Rises Again. He also did the fucking Devil's Reign. Is that not the one with
The
William
Devil's
Shatner?
Reign with William Shatner and Victor Borgnine? Not Victor Borgnine.
Ernest Borgnine.
Ernest Borgnine.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't the Avengers with the man who played the Doctor on The Howling?
Yes.
There you go.
Patrick McNee. Yeah. He also did one that I want to see. It's called The Final Program. It's based on a bunch of stories done by Michael Moorcock. The Jerry Cornelius stories, where it's just like character who's like kind of immortal. He keeps like dying in every story almost, and he's kind of like a spy and enigmatic, and it's weird. And I heard the movie was super fucking weird, so I kind of want to watch that.
That Devil's Reign is pretty good too. I have it on VHS.
The Devil's Reign is very good, actually. I totally agree. It's one of those like 1970s gems that people just kind of overlook all the time, which is unfortunate. This is written by James Whitten and William Goldstein, and they're pretty much both known for writing this and the sequel. And that's about it. That's kind of their credits. They did a couple other things, but mainly this is it. We have the amazing Vincent Price as Dr. Anton Phibes, Joseph Cotton as Dr. Versalius, Virginia North as Volnavia, Terry Thomas as Dr. Longstreet, Sheen Berry as Lim Vesalius, Susan Travers as Nurse Allen, David Hutchison as Dr. Hedgepath, Edward Burnham as Dr. Dunwoody, Alex Scott as Dr. Hargraves, Peter Gilmore as Dr. Kadji, Morris Kaufman as Dr. Whitcomb, and Peter Jeffrey as Detective Inspector Trout. And we have a little synopsis here off IMDb from Ed Sutton. Doctors are being murdered in bizarre manners. Bats, bees, a killer frog mass, etc., which represent the 9 biblical plagues of Egypt. The crimes are orchestrated by an organ-playing, demented madman from his home base, replete with clockwork orchestra and help from a beautiful mute assistant. Detectives are stumped until they find that all the slain doctors once assisted Dr. Vesalius on an unsuccessful operation involving the wife of organist Dr. Phibes, killed in a car crash upon learning of his wife's death. He couldn't be the culprit, could he?
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. Spoilers, it's actually Dr. Phibes. When's the first time you watched this, Paul, and what's your sort of general thoughts on it?
Well, I watched this back in the 90s. It was later in the day of watching movies because I watched probably, I'm trying to think of all the Vincent Prices this was one of the late, Dr. Phibes and Rises Again is probably one of the latest Vincent Prices I've ever watched. So, like, I've already watched all the other ones. This was like the last kind of bits and pieces. The only one that I saw after this was the Oblong Box.
Oh yeah,
Scream and Scream Again, I think it's called, and Theater of Blood were probably the three I watched after this. Yeah, and I always considered this film Theater of Blood without the jokes.
I mean, there's still jokes in this, but the sequel is much more jokey than this one. Yeah. So, Lady Lee, is this your first time watching this one?
No, I saw this when I was a kid. I was pretty young. My dad bought the VHS and said that I would really like it because I was really into like horror movies back then. Still am. But my dad he watched a lot of like old horror movies as well. So he bought this for me when I was younger. So I had it on VHS. Well, I think he bought it for him and I got to watch it.
There you go.
Well, I mean, your dad played with Screaming Lord Sutch. It just kind of stands to reason that he might have liked horror movies from this period. That kind of.
He did, yeah, he very much did. He was all into it. So a lot of the horror movies I watched were because of my dad.
Yeah, for me, I've seen this a couple times over the years. I definitely first time I saw it was probably when I was a kid at some point. But it was it was like there was a chopped down TV version of this. Because it does get a little bloody at certain parts where it's just like, maybe we want to like pull away for the family, I guess. You don't want to see necessarily the bat eaten face of the first victim or whatever, kind of thing.
I always found the locust laugh out loud funny, that scene.
That's the thing, right? Because you see the effects are really good, but at the same time, there's like some deliberately cheap effects in this. I feel like that
it's effective though.
Yeah, but they're supposed to make you laugh at the same time, right?
Like a unicorn?
The fucking unicorn.
The brass unicorn flying through the courtyard.
That's such a fucking great scene, man. Like
just even the frog part too is like awkwardly funny.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? For what's going on, but it's still satirically funny.
Well, I just love that, Dr. Phibes he's killing all these doctors. And to be fair, most of these doctors are fucking shitheads. This one doctor he approaches at a party, and it's a party with masks or whatever. So, it's like a mask gala ball or whatever the fuck you would call it. Yeah, sure.
Masquerade.
Yeah, masquerade, yes. Mask of the Red Death. But this doctor approaches Dr. Phibes. He's like, I don't know you. I'm a head shrink. I'm a psychiatrist and everything. I just love that. Vincent Price. He just rolls his fucking eyes. You see him roll his eyes in his mask. He's like, oh my god, this fucking guy. I can't wait till he dies. And then he's like, here, I got a mask for you. Puts it on, and the mask like crushes his head. It's got almost like a steampunk kind of mechanical device on it where it keeps tightening the mask after it's been latched on, which is just fucking great. And I kind of love the way in that scene where the score kind of changes. Like the whole score of this film, like the movie's set in the 1920s. So the whole score is like this sort of like big band jazz kind of music. And then there's a little bit like church organ music and stuff in it as well. But it kind of takes you into perspective of the guy in the mask for a little bit. And it kind of sound like you kind of hear the music that's playing in the actual scene. It sounds like it would sound to him while he's in the mask, like it's kind of muted and weird. Muffled. So there's this nice muffling going on. And it's just, they do so many like just really cool, interesting things in this film that you wouldn't expect them to do. And I really appreciated it. What are your guys' favorite kills in this film?
I like the locust one. For some reason, that one really fascinated me from when I was a kid. I just thought it was really cool because I remember getting my dad to explain what happened. Thanks, Dad. If ever you watch. But yeah, I remember just thinking it was so fascinating. And it's the one I can remember. Actually, that was the one where I told you where you're the one who told me the title of the movie. Because that's the one I remember. Like out of all the deaths, that's the only one I remember. So...
What kind of sleeping pill do you have to take where you don't feel like all that goop being like dropped over your face?
Especially when it starts to like get over her nose or her mouth. Can she breathe?
Yeah, when I would, if I had stuff all over me, I'd go, "Oh my god, what's going on?" Like you'd wake up. But apparently, she took 6 doses of horse tranquilizer, so she was okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Right.
I kind of feel like she already died before he sicked the locusts on her, like kind of thing, you know? It was just like the locusts were more for like dramatic effect. It's like the cops will find her with her face eaten off, but she's already dead, you know, well before that.
I always liked the bat scene because it gave you kind of like that kind of Hammer horror-y kind of British vibe to it. But even though obviously that wasn't, I mean, they're not even fruit bats, so it's like it's not going to happen. But it gave you that kind of nice vibe. Kind of like when they go to the church and the grave guy, you know, says they'll visit the worms soon, that kind of thing. Gives you a good vibe. But I always enjoyed the rats in the plane.
That one is like it just makes me feel like Kingdom of the Spiders, you hacks, because basically you just rip that scene off. Although, you know, it's AIP, it's American International Pictures. They did this. They did Kingdom of the Spiders later on with William Shatner, and you had a scene in that film where, you know, spiders were in like a fucking plane at one point, and basically the same outcome kind of thing, crawling over the dude, and then he crashes or whatever.
All these motherfucking spiders in this motherfucking plane, like kind of thing.
I kind of really love the sort of brutal like quickness of the unicorn stabbing thing. I just kind of like the joke of it. Like, you know, the police are like, they're onto it now. It's like, this guy's killing these doctors. We got to protect them. So they're like trying to protect this one doctor, and doctor's like, oh, well, I feel like I'm a fucking hit of the state or whatever. You know, I'm so protected right now. Opens the elevator door. This fucking unicorn just comes flying right through, stabs him, and it's in this like fucking upper class like gentleman's club or whatever. So it's like, you got to be polite. You can't make a lot of noise. And I love how the detectives are talking. Like, you know, the unicorn horn has like kind of like a screw filing on it or whatever, right? So it's like, it looks like it's you know, it's on the left or whatever. So we have to unscrew it in this certain way. And then you see the detectives behind the panel. You see the guy's legs keep coming up and going away, and coming up and going away as they're unscrewing it. And then the joke is, you know, at the end, this old guy sitting there trying to read his papers, like, can you please people like keep it down? You know, stop talking. I'm trying to enjoy my fucking newspaper here in this gentleman's club.
Very comical.
It just struck me as funny, and like everything in this is pretty funny. Like, I think one of the biggest strengths of this is that it takes kind of how Vincent Price's persona had been to this point. Like, he had done like he's known for doing very like theatrical performances, right? And there is an element of camp to a lot of the performances he's done. You know, so after like the Corman Poe adaptations that he starred in, this was sort of his new sort of specialty of doing like the mad genius who gets revenge kind of thing. It's kind of riffing back to what he did in House of Wax from like, I think it was like 1954 or something like that, where he kind of played a similar kind of role. But then you get this, you get Phibes Rises Again. You got something like in the AIP Beach Party series with like Dr. Goldfoot and the Bikini Machine, which is kind of similar in certain ways. Then you got Theater of Blood, which would come after this, which is very much like, you know, in the same wavelength of this. And then you have like Madhouse. Have you ever seen Madhouse, Paul?
Believe I have. I'm not sure if I own it though.
Which is almost like a meta spoof on Vincent Price movies, because he plays he plays a horror actor who's played a role several times over of this like demented guy who, you know, is like this mastermind who kills people and shit. And then people he knows starts dying around him, and it feels like, you know, he might be like going insane and killing people, and there's this whole mystery around it and shit like that. Okay. But yeah, this whole idea of like the wrong genius driven to madness and revenge, it works for Price here. And then there's, you know, his charm, like the element of humor that he brings into it. And it just plays into Price's persona at this point. I think this is like it's kind of like the most epic, indulgent version of like a Vincent Price movie, because this movie looks great. Like it's got that whole, even though it's fairly low budget, it's got all that great Art Deco sets, and the presentation is very theatric, and it looks like there's nothing here like I can point out one effect that looks bad. and that's it in this movie. And that's actually in the openings, like in the opening sequence with the bats. There's an obvious fake bat that flies in at one point on a string when the butler comes in. And then that's it. And that's it. And that's it. Like the rest of this film looks fucking immaculate. Like it's so well fucking made.
Well, the scenes are good. I mean, just overall the area they shot in was really good too. So that helps with things. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they really went for set design in this one too, because everything Phibes is in is usually pretty crazy too. So.
Yeah, I mean, he's got his whole, like, his lair or whatever, like, all these, like, he's got this, like, ballroom kind of thing set up with, like, marble floors and a marble dais and everything, and he's got his big fucking elaborate church organ that he plays. Dr. Phibes himself is renowned, before he, quote-unquote, died, he's a renowned organist. He, the last doctor, the last victim that he's going after or whatever, where he kidnaps the guy's son or whatever. His son actually knows of Phibes. He knows that he's, you know, like a brilliant organist or whatever. But yeah, the film looks great.
I love the vehicle.
With the weird
the picture.
windows. Yeah, with the Phibes
picture.
picture.
Of him on each side and the back of his head on the back. Oh, that was comical.
But he was also known to be like a millionaire, where he had money stored all over the world randomly too. So it's just this crazy, love-lost, eccentric millionaire that's driven into madness and revenge. You know what I mean? And he just goes all the way. Plus, no matter, I mean, let's not forget like what happened to him himself.
Yeah,
physically. That was, you know, so.
Yeah, because he's basically he survived his car crash. And, you know, there's speculation that the body that showed up in his grave was like his chauffeur or something instead, right? And like we do get the reveal of what Phibes looks like, and one of the most iconic horror visuals ever. The way the makeup job that's done, like actually the makeup jobs all through this entire film are fucking great. Like I like the fact that like you're looking at Vincent Price and he's wearing a mask. He's wearing a Vincent Price mask on his face, basically.
Yeah.
Because you can tell there's something wrong about her, right? Like the like color is off.
The discoloration on the neck, yeah.
Yeah, and he can't move his face. Like Vincent Price had his face, he had his mouth basically glued together, where he could not open his mouth to talk. So he's kind of like miming his lines on screen, and he actually did his lines in post or whatever. Like it's ADR over it, right? And just a physical performance that Vincent Price is giving here, because he doesn't even talk for the first, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes of the movie. You don't hear him say anything.
No one talks for at least the first 10.
Yeah.
Anyone.
And the performance he gives with his vocals, because he's got this contraption, and it's almost like a steampunk sci-fi kind of idea where he's got these things connected to his neck that apparently pick up his vibrations in his neck. And, you know, it's 1920s, but apparently he's got like a patch cord for like a fucking amp that he can stick in, you know, and into his like gramophone and talk to people. The way he delivers those lines too, very like robotic, kind of mechanical almost. He's got his whole mechanical, the Dr. Phibes orchestra, or where the fuck it was that are those
mechanical clockwork band musicians, clocks, Phibes clockwork musicians.
So the guy's like obviously like a kind of like a sci-fi evil genius, like almost like a kind of hints towards like, you know, supervillains of like, you know, James
he
Bond.
actually, with the little, I was gonna say, you got right there. I was gonna say he almost acts like a Bond villain, where you think the clockwork musicians have like guns and knives sticking out of them at some point in time and firing at the bad guy or the good guy while he's rolling away.
Yeah.
The one part I really enjoyed watching Vincent Price was the scene with the rats in the plane, and he's watching with the telescope. His reactions are so good. Like just everything, how he just twitches and he's looking. And again, like this guy never talks other than through like the actual device that helps him have the voice being heard.
Yeah, the gramophone thing.
But his mouth never opens, and he does such a good job of expressing. And that point, that right there was perfect. Like it was so good.
It's really his performance, right? I mean, I've never heard an interview of him about this movie or whatever, but I get the feeling he knew like just how good this movie kind of was for what he does. Like it seems like it's so perfectly geared to how he acts. It's like, oh, I can do lines, of course. I've got lines, but it's much more based on my physical theatrical flourishes that I'm known for. And he just brings all that. Like he's just doing interesting, weird things. Like he's kind of, he's committing these murders, but at the same time, he's enjoying himself doing it, right? Like he's having fun. He's taking the time to smell a flower while he's watching.
Yeah, while he's reveling in revenge, but reveling in the moment too.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's actually not even my favorite character. I prefer, if I had to pick, I like the back and forth between Trout and Crow.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the fact that they keep on calling him different names, Pike and Perch. And unfortunately, when he was going to go to the bathroom, Crow says a good line was that that's very apt because that's because he thinks the whole thing is shit. But at the same time, I was sad because he called him Trout instead of Pike or Bass or something else or Halibut or whatever. Like, damn, he called him his right name, but like that was pretty funny. I always like that. And actually, I really appreciate the jeweler's scene that made the medallions. I just thought he was really good.
Yeah, he was
a lady. It was a woman, no, a lady.
Yeah,
very different thing there.
Very fashionable. Yeah.
Yes, very fashionable. You didn't write down fashionable.
And we should talk about this character, Volnavia. So there was a rewrite in the script. So initially she was supposed to be just another clockwork creation of Dr. Phibes, but they changed her in the script to being an actual person. And I don't think they like rewrote the entire script enough to like necessarily flesh her out. So I kind of feel like if there's anything I want more from this film, I kind of wanted to know what was the relationship between her and Dr. Phibes. Like, I kind of want to know her character a little bit better. Like, she's just silent, she's sexy. There's kind of a fetish kind of thing going on with her in some scenes, and
she doesn't talk a lot.
Yeah, I mean, she like all of her scenes, she's dressed just spectacularly. She's dancing with Phibes. She's drinking with Phibes. She's helping Phibes carry out his plans. When Phibes is killing people, she's like playing the fucking violin, and they're just having fun together. And it feels like I need to know more about how these two got together. I was
actually a little upset because I thought after the acid got on her, she was going to be mechatronic.
That's the thing. Like, I feel like in the original script before they rewrote, that was going to be the reveal, right? And that would have been fine. That would have been a great reveal. I would have liked it, yeah. Yeah, it would have worked. Changing her to an actual flesh and blood character kind of hurts the film a little because it's just like, so why is she in this? Like, what?
Yeah, how did he brainwash her to be a part of this? How did this? How did that? Why is she questioning things? There's not enough backstory on her to fill those voids.
Yeah, or they wired the money to her. So all the money after he died was wired to her, and they never actually go and look for her, which was kind of weird. Had it been a different background story, I think it would have been more interesting than if she was just human. Because, like, they kind of linked her right away, like pretty early on, that there was another female, and that just kind of took you out of the illusion of, like, the mystery.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to get too heavy into the sequel because I feel like that should be the next thing we cover for the next intermission or whatever. But people speculate that they kind of work it into like she's a persona of like a goddess of death or something like that, like helping Dr. Phibes. And like the sequel is definitely like much more mystical. It's much more supernatural, whereas this is very much kind of grounded. Like it's grounded in reality to the point where it's, yeah, Dr. Phibes brought himself back from the dead kind of thing. And, you know, so you gotta take a little grain of salt on that or whatever. But yeah, it's just that's kind of like the only stumbling block in this entire series is Volnavia. It's just like she needed more. She needed to be better fleshed out.
She needs a lot more to be calling her an effluence of death, like, you know, a figurehead. But at the same time, I always appreciated the fact that it was 999, because 9 is a highly mystical number in those kind of cults and whatnot, etc. The Kabbalists and stuff. So that was cool. I like that.
So let's bring up one of the kills here, and this is Terry Thomas. If you've watched a lot of movies from the 60s and 70s, especially, you'll have seen him in a lot of shit. Really great actor, great comedic actor. He's one of the doctors. He's the one who has the film projector.
Yes, he's my favorite. I would have been him in the film if I had to be a victim. That would be my role.
Playing a blue movie, I guess you would call it. Maybe not.
I was thinking of you too, Paul. As soon as I saw that scene, like I was.
Yeah, that's me.
Like, but, especially with watching, it was just perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But a character cranking his projector, so to speak, to a movie, and his maid, who they kind of hint that like his housekeeper, he's been fucking her too on the side, kind of thing, because she walks in, he's like, "Oh, you pervert! What are you doing now?" Kind of thing. Yeah, you naughty little boy. Yeah, like there's some hidden sexual stuff in this film that they don't really bring out, but.
Well, even the constable later, he goes, "Oh, you were his," and she turned around, housekeeper.
Yeah.
I want to like attain that level of attractiveness where I can just walk into somebody's house and tie them to a chair without them struggling. Like,
because Volnavia just this guy, he sees her, she walks in and. He's just like,
well, I mean, that's another kind of loophole to the story. You don't ever see like trances. They don't, I mean, because everyone basically just sits down and lets whatever happens. I mean, the one guy, he was just sitting there and he got frozen to death with the machine. Like they took time to set that up and he just sat there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
like that. There are.
The other one's on horse tranquilizers.
Yeah, horse tranquilizers. The other one, he was basically sitting on a no butt plug attached to his seat, and he was too embarrassed to tell anybody, so he didn't move.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that doctor, to be fair, he looked pretty like close to elderly, so
yeah.
And Vincent Price is pretty fucking menacing in this. Like he looks pretty fucking like
he does look terrifying.
Yeah,
I actually did like that line. The one doctor is like, "Bosco, the lady's in a bit of bother. Go see what happens." Like he's like, "Just fuck you, go. Just go do that." I'm like, yeah, that's proper goodness right there. That's Lord and Lady shit.
I mean that character gets frozen in his car. His chauffeur gets like the Vulcan neck pinch from Phibes, and he's still out when the cops come and investigate. He's still laying on the ground out.
Yeah, but they didn't kill him because he would have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Now, however, I am sorry. Old carp, trout, bass, fish gets knocked out with a feeble shot from a phone. I don't buy that.
I mean, he's an ineffective British cop. That's what happens to them.
With an amazingly huge proboscis.
Oh, he's got a fucking fat ass nose. Like
yeah.
That man,
but I found him very enjoyable to watch through the film.
I did laugh that at the end they all go down there and they don't really look for him. They just kind of look and he's like, "Oh, he's gone," and then they don't try and search or try and investigate. It's more like
the British can only go so far. They go, no, we showed up. He's not here anymore. Don't want to be rude. Time to go home. Another good slapstick is when Volva, we'll just call her, is going around and Uvula, and she's going and she's wrecking the whole place, and she slashes the backdrop, and then the cops stick their head through the backdrop.
Yeah.
I thought that's pretty good one too.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Like the film is fucking enjoyable. It's an hour and a half. It doesn't feel like an hour and a half even. Like it breezes by.
The deaths are so well placed too, so it's not just like a bunch of deaths at once, a bunch of deaths at the end, no build up. It's like it starts with a death, and then hey, we have another death. Oh, here's another death. Like it's just well spaced out throughout the movie.
Yeah, it's not like like a lot of the things where it's like 35 minutes of nothing and then 20 minutes of solid action. It's pretty good.
It's just all death.
Even though you get kind of like a good pace of deaths and stuff like that, and the movie moves along, you get to the final sequence where Phibes has the last doctor's son on this operating table, and the doctor has to extract a key from his body to unlock him from the table before acid drops on his face. By the way, Saw franchise, you fucking hacks, because
they're all Saw is one of some of the worst movies ever made.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but the suspense on that is so good because it's very helpful the devices that Phibes has set up, he has clearly labeled on the side of like the acid device where it's pulling up 30 seconds. He's got 30 seconds left. If it fills up, that's when the acid's going to pour on the kid's face and shit. Like it's almost like 60s Batman. It's like a precursor.
Sometimes you just can't get rid of a bomb.
There's this very 60s Batman camp element slightly in this, especially when Phibes at the end there he sets himself up, he lays down next to his lovely wife, he drains the blood from himself and he's replacing the blood with embalming fluid, and the fucking bottles say embalming fluid on the it's like,
well, you have to make sure that the audience knows exactly what's going on,
yeah, because otherwise it was like it looked like tapioca pudding. He's gonna be tapioca pudding in his veins. Oh
boy.
The blood
Sometimes I feel like I have that in my veins. Which again, so I mean, it's a cut and dry film, and the guy kills himself to be with his wife at the end after he seeks what he considers his revenge. Yeah. Why is there a rise again?
Because it's actually part of his plan. Like, like if you look at his coffin at the end. It actually plays into the sequel where it's like that's actually predicting the eclipse that is going to be the time for him to come back to life and then do his look for eternal life thing and bring his wife back.
I haven't seen the sequel yet. I didn't even know there was a sequel.
Well, no, you didn't even know it. See that you just learned something.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do agree. It is confusing at the end, but they obviously knew they were planning a sequel. Yeah, like they knew they were planning a sequel at the very least. So they cleverly.
Well, it was nice because you could cleverly do that, like you said. Like it's like if we for some reason couldn't do a sequel because something happens, we got a movie. But if we don't, then we still have that loose end, like there with the symbol that lights up at the end on the coffin that they show, and then of course he laughs at the end after the credits. So that here.
And they mentioned the darkness too, saying that I guess he's plotting his last thing, last step, last stage.
Yeah.
Last curse?
Yeah, well no, his last plan is to basically, well, actually I'm not going to give away the sequel because we're going to do it next time.
Talk about it. What are you doing?
Yeah. So fuck.
Let me watch it first.
Yeah.
There's spoilers and we're warned, but there's no Dr. Phibes 2 on this. So
Yeah.
Well, then you got to watch Dr. Phibes 3. Dr. Phibes finds Viagra and rises yet again.
So do we have any sort of final thoughts before we get into trivia and stuff like that? Or?
I just want to say, as a kid, I watched this movie multiple times. I was so fascinated by it when I was younger. It's the only reason, that's a massive reason why I remember it. It's a massive reason why I brought it up, which is because it was, like I said, it's that scene. It's that one scene. It never left my brain. And the bats and the rats were really cute.
Yeah, you got the...
You saw the bats and their little faces? I was like, oh my God, they're adorable.
You have these, rats are usually, like, either white or gray or black, and you get these, like, brown rats, which is, something... Actually, I've never seen, like, light brown tan kind of rats ever in a film before, which is unique. And then
they're pretty fucking cute.
And the bats here are flying foxes, big fruit bats.
Flying fox fruit bats. And I just watched Teenage Exorcist with
oh my God,
Brink Stevens and Michael Berryman, and it's so funny because if you watch when they're running up and down the stairs to the basement, they're ferrets, white ferrets instead of rats. It's hilarious. And you could see them because they're trying not to step on the ferrets when they're running up and down the stairs. So they're making all these like huge detours around it to make sure they don't hurt them. It's really funny.
That movie is so cheap. It's so funny,
but it's so really good. At the same time.
It is. It's very enjoyable. So the budget for this, the source I got here is $300,000, 300,000 pounds UK. Box office I saw for this US $3 million or 1.5 million. Either way, really good fucking return. Like it was enough that was like, Dr. Phibes 2 is coming to a theater near you really soon, kind of thing. Releases for this, there's a really good Shout Factory release here. The Vincent Price collection from 2013. You can still find copies at a very inflated price, but it is worth checking out if you want to buy that. But it's also on Vudu, multiple DVD releases over the years, like Paul and I were saying. The MGM Midnight Movie releases are still out there on eBay, especially. You could probably find them. And also, this film and a sequel are free on YouTube. So if you just want to watch them on there,
there are no excuses not to watch them.
A little bit of trivia here. Peter Cushing, who actually shows up in the sequel, although far too briefly, was originally cast as Vesalius, but he declined because his wife was in poor health at this time. So this is right around the time where his
wife died of cancer or something.
Yeah. Writer William Goldstein said Volnavia was originally meant to be another clockwork device, like I said, complete with wind-up key in her neck. By the way, Vincent Price drinking the wine in the back of his neck.
Yeah.
Is that not like a fucking cool thing? Like that's
hilarious.
Yeah, I love that. Believing that Phibes needed more mobile assistant, director Robert Frost made her human, but retained the blank facial expression and mechanical movements, which I think further led to speculation from people watching the film, like she's some sort of like deity or like demon or something, you know. Several other sequels were planned, including Phibes Resurrectus, The Bride of Dr. Phibes, interesting, and the Seven
Nights of Dr. Phibes,
and the Seven Fates of Dr. Phibes, but none were ever produced. And
quite a lot.
Yeah, quite a lot. They're like a lot of people were like, we could make this a series, we can make this a thing, right? And I think they were even like trying to do this in the 80s. And they were like, you know, looking for other people to be Dr. Phibes. Like I think Orson Welles at one point was like slotted for one of these, which is weird. Uncredited Carolyn Monroe was Dr. Phibes' wife in this, and she appears in the photographs and a couple scenes where she's in suspended animation. Yeah.
Wasn't she credited something like that in like as like Victoria Reagan or something like that?
Victoria Regina Phibes, I think.
Yeah, and because the Victoria Regina was like one of the first plays Vincent Price was ever in, or something like that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, in the 30s.
But yeah, recommendation. Yeah, I mean, Dr. Phibes. If you haven't seen it, you're fucking asshole. You got to see it.
You are a prick.
Stop being lame.
Watch it.
Don't be a loser.
Watch Dracula 1972 and watch this the same night.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll have a good time.
Well, actually, I would say if you want to get your Carolyn Monroe goodness, watch Dracula AD 1972 and watch Captain Kronos Vampire Hunter.
Oh yeah, that was a shame because that would have been a great series, which they planned on doing, but they never did because that would have been a fantastic series.
Just like Dr. Phibes, another series they could have done and they didn't really do. Yeah,
that really would have went off because that was a fantastic movie.
Yeah. Totally agree. So, Paul, where can people find you on the interwebs?
You can find me on YouTube at PA Brew News. You can find me on Instagram at Oil Paintings by P. Rumali, Facebook Oil Paintings by P. Rumali. Also, the Maniacs Meat Podcast on YouTube under PA Brew News, and Instagram Maniacs Meat Podcast. Probably starting up a new one here soon on the YouTubes. Probably either Learn It the Hard Way or Outdoors PA.
Okay. Either way, check it out.
Doing a lot of cold camping outside in the winter like an idiot with no shelters, things like that. Fun stuff. Learning it the hard way and try not to die in the process.
He's going to do Sasquatch stuff, so watch it.
Yep. Going to try to find my furry mate.
Lady Lee, you got anything you want to plug?
I have nothing this time.
Okay. That's fine.
I'm a loser.
And you can find us at tmbdos.podbean.com, where you can find all of our podcasts and all of our links and requested bullshit, whatever. That's where it happens. That's where the money's made. That's where we all get
shit goes down.
That's where we all get paid. Paul and Lee in this episode, $300 each. No.
And I didn't even have to show my boobs.
No. Yeah. But no, everyone, thank you for listening. And like I said, actually, next Intermission episode we're going to do, it will be the sequel to Dr. Phibes. Dr. Phibes Rises Again. Look forward to that in the next couple of weeks. Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to They Must Be Destroyed on Sight. For further episodes, our Apple Podcasts, Facebook, and YouTube links, please go to tmbdos.podbean.com. Thank you. Drive through.